Benedict and Saint Scholastica. Are we on yet?
It's on. Just a few seconds. Now pray.
Get what? Oh, there. Okay, I think we've got her now. Okay, very good. And what I said was Saint Benedict and Saint Scholastica, pray for us. Oh, yes. All right, now I would like to push on in these last two conferences into the gospel, which Benedict says use the gospel as our guide. And so I'm going to jump into the Sermon on the Mount. And so I'm going to be giving you homework, which is to read chapters and do Lectio on chapters 5, 6, and 7 of St. Matthew's Gospel. Okay, so you can kind of just touch into the Sermon on the Mount, which I'm going to really dive into today and tomorrow. So stay with me. I hope I don't lose you in this process here. And of course, I have to start with a story. I don't think I used it the last time I was here, but maybe I did, and so you might remember it. Have you seen the movie Lost Horizon? It's an old one. It's a very old one, but it's one that I have always loved. Actually, I couldn't get it on DVD or at any point in time, but I think I was up in the mountains with the community up there, and when I got home from giving them retreat, they had sent me already the video of Lost Horizon, so now I have the whole movie, and I'm so excited about it. Yes. Okay, so anyway, this story is about, and there's an airplane with all Americans on it, and they're going to, I don't know where they were going, but I know they crashed in India, in the Himalayan mountains, and there were maybe 3 or 4 survivors of the crash, and they wandered around for some time. Have you seen it or heard of it? No. They wandered around for some time, and they finally found a little town where they could be associated, get into it, and it was a beautiful town. Now, I'm sure you've heard of that little I'm calling it a town. They probably didn't call it a town then. I'm sure you've heard of it. Shangri-La. Shangri-La. Yes. Okay. Well, at one point, toward the end of the movie, the man who was kind of like the governor or the president of Shangri-La, he was getting very elderly and he knew he was going to die soon. So he called in this one American who he felt had been brought to Shangri-La to take his place. And he sat him down and he started to talk to him. And I loved what he said. And would you believe when I got the record of that, I actually got it was a musical when I saw it. And they had the old-fashioned albums, you know, and on the thing was this very conversation that he had with this one. I had it memorized at one time in my life, but at 72, I no longer can do it by memory. Julianne Babcock, if she was here, she would do it by memory, I'm sure. You know, Beach Grove Sister Beth Pryor's, she could always do stuff by memory. But anyway, so this is what he was saying to his predecessor, the one he thought would take over Shangri-La. He says, look at the world today. And if you don't think this fits for 2021, look at the world today. Is there anything more pitiful? But when has the world known any other times? What madness there is, what blindness, what unintelligible leadership, a furiously racing mass of bewildered humanity, strengthening not in wisdom, but in vulgar passions, crashing headlong into each other, motivated by greed and propelled into brutality. The time must come when evil will destroy itself. I will not live to see that day, but you might, my son, and that is why you have been brought to Shangri-La, to Ferdinand, to St. Paul. For when the day comes that the world begins to look for a new life, it is our belief that they will find their reservoir of hope here. That they will find their reservoir of hope here. So here we shall stay with our books and our music and our meditation. Here we shall be to guide the footsteps of a very weary people. Here we shall be with our way of life based on one simple rule: be kind. Be kind. And it is our hope that Shangri-La's communal love will then spread throughout the world. And when the strong have devoured each other, then at last the meek shall inherit the earth. Isn't that powerful? Or is it just me? I just think that is so powerful. And I love the theme of being that reservoir of hope for our world. I believe with all my heart that we Benedictines can do that and can be that. So what I want to talk to you today and tomorrow about is, our need to stay focused on what gives us life so that we can truly be what we are called to be. Christians, monastics, oblates. This is going to fit very well today and tomorrow with our oblates. But it's going to, I think, help us to be the people we are called to be. People who know how to be kind. People that know how to be kind. I swear our world doesn't know how to do that. I mean, they have fistfights on the airplane because somebody told them to wear a mask. I mean, it's ridiculous. Jeopardizing the lives of everybody on that plane. Hence, in looking at the Sermon on the Mount, those chapters 5, 6, and 7 of Matthew, we hear, I think, strongly our call to be salt, to be light, to be fully alive. Each of us, I think, has an enormous impact on each other here in our community, in our families, with our co-workers, our friends, our neighbors. We have an impact on them by the way we live our lives in the daily. In our day, it's so easy to get consumed, I think, by the daily demands, our daily busyness. We can get so busy. I don't know about you here, but boy, can we at Ferdinand get busy and busier. We also, I think, can get so consumed by our worries, our concerns. We worry about our health, our community's health. We worry about our family's health, our friends. We worry about our future. We worry about our finances. We worry about so many things, and we worry about our country and where we're going with that. But then, when has it ever been easier, as it says in the Lost Horizon? Each generation, I think, has had its demands. And who says that we can't live with joy and hope in the process? I believe we can. I think each new generation needs not only economic plans, but ideas to inspire and hopes to encourage, ideals to live by and somewhere to start. This is the same sense of what being a follower of Christ is all about. It is people living in a practical testimony to the true nature of God and the true nature of humanity. We are to be, that revelation of who Christ is. We have to live our lives that way. We cannot go any other way. It is people really living in simplicity and living in faith. It is people living with our forgiving hearts, which we heard about several times this week, living in lifelong faithfulness to our baptismal commitments and to our monastic commitments, and steadfast love. And I think, too, with joy. If we're living these lives and we're walking around like it's killing us, and, this is like, sometimes I always want to say, if you're happy, would you please inform your face? Somehow, the face doesn't quite reveal that, If you could inform your face, that'd be great. I think it's the people on the way and people who stay on the way. And that's where we are. And if you ask me what our church needs now, what our world needs now, I would say resoundingly, solid Christian witness. Why? Because we have inherently and instinctively, in the example, the way of Christ, lived what the church and the world needs now more than ever. The way Christ lived, that's what they need to see. Christ is not here except in us. And every single one of us here, Christ is in every single one of us. And if we live that way, wow, can we truly be that reservoir of hope for our world? A blessing for our weary, weary world. During my own Lectio and reading, I really found an answer to all of this questioning that I've had in my mind about what do we do, how do we move our world. I really found a lot of my answers in that Sermon on the Mount. And so I want to talk with you about three basic themes that I found in there, which is being salt, being light, and fully alive. Those three aspects, all of which makes us, as Christians, men and women, oblates, makes all of us men and women of prophecy in our times. But it involves, I think, all of Christ's love and way of loving. And it's nowhere, I think, more evident than this Sermon on the Mount. Just to help you reflect, I'll just do a few of them. Blessed are you who are poor in spirit, who know your need of God. The reign of God is yours. Blessed are you who mourn, for you will be comforted. You who comfort each other, right? Blessed are the meek, for you will inherit the earth. Blessed are you who hunger, you shall be filled. Blessed are you who show mercy. Mercy will be yours. One little thing of mercy that I forgot to mention this morning was when I was moaning about my own sinfulness to my spiritual director one time, and recalling, so many things I'd done wrong and sharing with her. And she just looked at me and she said, Karen, don't forget, you can never out-sin God's mercy. So there's a good one for you. You can never out-sin God's mercy. That was really a relief to me. I'm glad to know that. And also in the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are you who are pure in heart, for you shall see God. That's right in our rule and how we treat each other. Blessed are you who are peacemakers, for you will be called children of God. You have heard it said, but I say to you, if you are angry with your brother or sister, you will be brought to judgment. If you approach the altar and remember that your brother or sister has something against you, go first and be reconciled, and then come and offer your gift. I'm sure you remember all those things, but we have to take them in and live them. We can't just hear them nice on Sundays or whenever. And say, oh, that was really a beautiful reading, wasn't it? Yeah, I love that reading. It's something that we have to make our passion, I think. In this, reflecting then on the Sermon on the Mount, Dietrich Bonhoeffer comments, humanly speaking, this is a direct quote from Dietrich Bonhoeffer, humanly speaking, we could understand and interpret the Sermon on the Mount in 1,000 different ways. Jesus knows only one possibility: simple surrender and obedience. Not interpreting it or applying it, but doing it and obeying it. That is the only way to hear his word. He does not mean that it is to be discussed as an ideal. He really means us to get on with it. To get on with it. It's not just an ideal to just, wonderful, that's so beautiful. I just really love the Sermon on the Mount. Yeah, but it's just good for reading, huh? We don't want to live it. Oh, no. Yes, we do want to live it. Many of our attempts, I think, to be good Christians, to be good Catholics, to be good Benedictines, easily fits, I think, into the context of the admonitions on the Sermon on the Mount. I think our efforts to be nice to our neighbor, to our community members, to our patients, have patience with our children, our spouses or friends, to forgive and to let go of past hurts, and to be faithful to our prayer, to work toward forgiveness and acceptance of another, to be people of peace and justice, and to serve one another in any way that we can, and to offer our hospitality to guests who visit us. In essence, that's all our Christian way of life. All of these and more are these three very demanding chapters in this Gospel of Matthew. They are very demanding, I admit that. But once again, the cost of our own witness, as we said, this is about being a witness of who Christ is. It's really our own martyrdom. It costs us, yes, it's going to hurt, but it's our own martyrdom in a way, giving our all, the gift of our lifeblood. It's our faithfulness to our monastic commitment in profession, and our commitment as oblates as well. And I have a whole talk on monastic profession that I didn't give you this time, but it's a big passion of mine. In fact, I helped at Benedict. I wrote chapter 74, but anyway. Each one of you is the salt of the earth. Each one of you. Susan, you are the salt of the earth. Linda, you're the salt of the earth. You're the salt of the earth. Lucia, you are, Jackie, the salt of the earth. Yes, you are all the salt of the earth and the light of the earth. Really a city built on a hill, which cannot be hidden. Notice Jesus does not say you will be or you should be. When you are perfect, then you will be the salt of the earth. No, he says you are. Now, right now, you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Now, where you are, as you are, just do your best to give it your all. The nature of salt is salt, or it's nothing. The essence of salt is its action, isn't it? I mean, that salt shaker can sit on the table and do nothing, be nothing, right? By itself, it has absolutely no purpose, just sitting there. Salt is there for the sake of the whole. Its only effectiveness is in relationship to the whole. How mindful am I as a member of my community, my monastic community, or my baptism as oblates. I am committed to giving myself always over to the common good, not always what's good for me, but the common good. Do I seek to satisfy my needs before everyone else's? How have I perhaps isolated myself from other people and their concerns? Do I resist the challenge to come out of my individual personal comfort zone and reach out to other people? Salt too as we know, is a preservative. It's a preservative. It can delay even death by its regenerative power. I can ask myself, does my presence in this monastic community, or for our oblates in our families, in our neighborhoods, our workplace, does it add life, zest, flavor, as salt does, flavor to God's people and to God's earth? Do I preserve gospel values by how I speak and how I act? I read somewhere that doctors postpone death and revive or maintain an organ by injecting it with salt. You probably know that. Does my presence bring an energy to those around me? Do my community members, does my family, my friends and co-workers again, do they find me life-giving? Or am I all doom and gloom? Yeah, all doom and gloom. Wasting my time and energy on gossiping. Are people afraid to approach me? Jesus tells us, you are the salt of the earth, mixed in with your sisters and brothers on this planet. We have the power to regenerate life in our world and in our church, in our communities, whether that be the church community, families, workplace, or neighborhoods, it doesn't matter. I think our mission on behalf of God's reign is to be the salt of the earth, to stem it in its justice, prevent its decay, and bring life where death threatens, regardless of our age, or regardless of our health, or regardless of our finances. It is throughout our day-to-day connections that we learn to truly be disciples. Within the context, I think, of our Christian life, we are people who worship God and become people of prayer and faith. Our saltness becomes effective then. I really believe that. So a question to ask ourselves is, how are we? Have I personally keeping my salt fresh? That's an interesting question. Am I keeping my salt fresh? Now, you're not only salt, you're also light. You're also light. We've already talked about that a bit. You, every one of you, are light for the world. You are. And so, how are you keeping your light burning bright? Without fire, one cannot expect a light. A light on a candle consumes itself to give light to all in the house. This light is given herself just for us. Giving herself just for us. It serves, the intimate unity of the household because its life consists in dying. So as we give ourselves, we know we're dying, right? But we still give ourselves. Why? Because we're light. We're the light for the world. We keep on giving. We keep on giving. To spare the candle from sacrificing itself must necessarily mean to go without its light. I don't want that candle to go on, so I blow it out, so it's just going to sit there forever. It's going to lose its purpose, its whole purpose. Rob a burning candle of the air it needs to give light, and it goes out. You got to have air. If I put my hands all around that, it's going to go out. I'm going to suffocate it, aren't I? Yeah, I will. And we don't want to do that either. This is community at its worst, where we take the air out of each other's life, by smothering them in some way or another. We squelch the gifts sometimes of one another. On the other hand, it can also be the hands of those in our families, in our communities, in particular, who protect our life so that it will not flicker. I've had friends in my life who really, when I was burning out, they were putting their hands around me and keeping me going, keeping my fire going. And I'm sure you can think of times in your life, too, when that happens. What is what is it that deprives me? What is it that deprives me of the air I need to be light? You know, what or whose are the hands that protect my light flame? Do I have both? Some that are putting it out, some that are keeping me. So light is the characteristic of the people of Jesus in its total brightness and its warmth. The old life consumes, turning its life-giving strength. The light Jesus kindles is never exhausted. The light that Jesus kindles is never exhausted. The light Jesus gives creates community and draws people together in joy, with love, flowing from their depths of their souls and finding expression in constructive deeds. What matters is to live in and from God's heart, spending ourselves for the good of the whole, burning ourselves out, and doing it until our last breath. I keep telling our younger sisters at home, when I die, I'm going to die with a smile on my face. I promise you. I'm going to die with a smile on my face because I want to have given it all, not saving anything back. They keep reminding me of that too. So I guess I better be sure to smile with a die with a smile on my face, don't you think? So God's light then is that all-inclusive life force that really affects all of the relationships in life, you know, in the same way that the sun shines upon the just and the unjust too. You know, the sun comes out on everybody. God does good to enemy and friends alike. God is there for everyone and everything. You know, in God's heart, every person matters. In God's heart, every person matters. This is the gospel message. And I can't give you a better example of that than I did last night when I told you how Conception Abbey offered to do the funeral of the murderer. That just blew me away. That is what you call the gospel at its best. That is Abbot Gregory Pullman, I'll tell you. The task we have as God's salt and light, then, is the task of the city on the hill. Its intention is to serve all. Not a single area of life should remain unaffected by this salt and this light. God's city on the hill has a concern and a responsibility for all aspects of life and for people in the most distant places. That's why we pray always for people in Iraq, people in Haiti, people in India, people in Africa. We're connected to them all. They're all God's people. And that's why I know you are all attuned to that as well in your prayer. So as we know, our daily life is not just about us alone. It's not just about me, not just about us, but the daily occurrence of life draws our attention outward to our world as well, keeping our perspective large and reminding us that our mission in this life is not just about any individual personal concerns, but about the salt and light for all of our earth, all of our world. That is part of our call as Christians, as monastic women, in living that gospel message. This city on the hill, here, the city on the hill here at St. Paul, with its secret of salt and its radiating light, has a special freedom. It has a quality of life which we must not forfeit for any kingdom of this world. Be anything of any obsessions we have, or any government or political party, and we don't side with all those pieces or any other organization of our age. The city, that's you and I, on the hill. You and I, we are literally on the hill. Ferdinand, if you've ever seen it, we are on the hill. The town calls us the castle on the hill. We pretty much are that, I must say. But the city on the hill, giving our light to all and being salt for everyone, means serving, I think, all of God's people freely without becoming enslaved to anything. The gospel is our passion. The gospel is our passion. Although our personalities and our energies may be rather moderate in its intensity, remember, this is a good one, remember too, is moderation does not mean mediocrity. You know, moderation, yeah, we can be moderate, but moderate doesn't mean mediocre, you know, it doesn't mean mediocrity. As St. Benedict says, the gospel is always our guide, the source of our good zeal, our passion. And I think by the quality of our monastic life, we become salt and light to ensure the furthering of the reign of God, for which we pray regularly in the praying of the prayer of Jesus. We are always praying, "May our Father," and for the coming of the kingdom. Always, always, always. Okay, so just think, well, there's one little other quote I guess I don't want to miss here. I want to say, let's free ourselves from what prevents us from being salt and light. And then truly our lives will then become love and light, city on the hill for our earth, seasoned by the salt of goodness, forgiveness, justice, and right relationship. That is why our spiritual lives are always relevant and always based in hope. Regardless of our age, we never let go of our hope. Never, never. And as Joan Chittister says, hope is dancing when we can't necessarily hear the music. Isn't that the truth? Hope is dancing when we can't necessarily hear the music. Think salt and light. Live from the heart with all of your heart, and with compassion, with joy, and with faithfulness. As disciples of Jesus, then, we are called to live as his disciples. This kingdom building is our participation in the life of Christ. We, his body is sitting right here, his body it must not equivocate, but give our whole heart and soul to surrender and obedience, not only interpreting the Sermon on the Mount or attempting to apply it, but by doing it and obeying it. Let's not just discuss it as a wonderful ideal, but in the words of Bonhoeffer, let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. Let's do it. And let's do it with joy and the passion of our spirit. And let's do it until our last breath. Okay, the rest will be tomorrow. Okay. Thank you for your patient listening.